So, I shouldn't say on bad days. I'm going to say at times because, you know, uh, these things kind of come and go during a day, during days where you see no end in sight, and I don't know, can I speak for someone in solitary confinement? I'm living in a house with my dog. I will comment that I have talked about how stressful it is, plenty, and my neighbor who was where there was fighting yesterday, there's screaming today that I think she's where she needs to be. She is getting rid of what she needs to get rid of, and I mean, but those are the kinds of sounds that a person might have heard in a, I don't know, what do we want to call these places? The state hospital in Columbia, South Carolina was a refuge for people during the Civil War, and I am not sure in what capacity exactly. Maybe the building was a shelter somehow. A mental hospital is rarely a shelter for a human as far as safety, but it could be. But the sounds from there, it's like, I mean, it's, all right, she's doing what she needs to do. I could even hear it out of the mailbox though, and I think well neighbors hear it too. And that's just the kind of place we live. And I mean, maybe it depends on where you are, But yeah, so am I judging her? No, I just think what kind of trauma is there in her past, um, and what kind of stress is she under, and of course there are ways that she's been hurt, and what kind of generational trauma is there. Those things are all important to think about, but I woke up to that this morning. And it's like I don't know what that is, but there are drugs, and I think when there are drugs, and sometimes there are drugs among, I want to comment, mental health practitioners, uh, then there's plenty that goes on. And is it good? Well, I mean, I'm not judging good or bad, I'm just saying, you know, uh, I am not giving up my life, and it's gotten pretty hard. I don't. At this point I know I can't do readings with what was going on in the fall and being very empathic physically. And I want to comment, I really don't think that torture is too strong of a word. I think that someone can look at my story, at what's going on, and at what I've been through, and look at things going on overseas and say, yeah, same thing. Yeah, that's pretty much the same thing. And is it here? Is it here? Well, there's some of the same dynamics going on. Yeah, and can I will I gradually become more able to really talk about it, in a way that people are like, wow, yeah, I really see it. I'm not sure. It's things where there's silencing around it. So I think about, you know, uh, I mean, I thought about earning degrees in anthropology. I thought about changing my undergrad major to anthropology, and I thought about applying to a graduate program in anthropology, but it didn't. It didn't seem practical enough. And yeah, adult education seems like a better choice, and I have no regrets about that. But but I think, I mean, everyone has stress, everyone has stress. We all do. But again, isolation. If I want to try to speak for someone in solitary confinement, even if it is just a short amount of time, if a person doesn't know how long they're going to be in there, I mean, that is an extremely harmful. I mean, it's always harmful. If a person's told how long they're going to be in it, if a person doesn't know how long they're going to be in it, one way or the other, it is torture. It's torture. So, do I have contact? I make videos, I put them online. I write emails. I mean, my mom sends me, have a peaceful day. I hope you have a pleasant day. I hope you get a chance to pop your head outside today. And it's like, no comment. Daffodils are blooming. That's a sign of spring. Yeah, I mean, let's pretend to be cheerful about that. All right, so I don't do that. And yeah, so solitary confinement, persons who have been through it are really the people who can talk about it the best. Sometimes a person might have died. Sometimes it might not be safe to, actually think about when I was reading. I have a book of poems from men who were at Guantanamo, and um, and I was looking to see where they are now. That is the night that I gave Sadie the Perfecto, and and I was feeling stressed from what I was reading, and her breathing was getting strange, and you know, uh, at least one of those men has committed suicide. Another of them disappeared after he returned to either his home country or country near it, where he must have thought he would be safer. And hopefully by disappeared, he just kind of, people don't know where he is, but he's alive. But that's torture. It's torture. You know, uh, Humans are social. A person can say, I'm not social. I don't need to talk to anyone. I don't need, a person might even say, I can't talk. I've lost the ability. Well, I mean, if I can get out and talk to people and it can feel a little bit normal after these years of isolation in Georgia, and I have to push myself beyond the, the word that comes to mind is shame. And should I feel shame? I have to push myself beyond the feelings of, yeah, it is. It's whatever shy kept me quiet for years growing up. And now I'm experiencing it again. What does that say? What does that say? I don't have illusions that me talking is going to change things because humans are such assholes that this shit's just going to keep on. But some of us have to speak out. And not a lot of people listen. I think about an older do I want to say physician, a medical doctor, a psychiatrist who has written books that are so important. And how many people read those books? Now that things have gone to electronic, is it even less people who read his books? I mean, he's older. I don't know how old he is. But what he has to say is so important. And it's not on the fringes, but it gets overlooked. And what does it take? And then if someone tried to bring him into the spotlight, I mean, what would happen? Because things just keep on. People don't want to change the way they think. People don't want to, I mean, so yeah, I woke up, was writing down what I dreamed, and I could imagine dying. And because yeah, this is extremely fucking harmful. All right. So I could imagine dying, and I could imagine my mom saying, "Well, she was sick for a long time." And I think about when John and I were living in South Carolina together, and uh what happened, my mom and his mom, we all got together for lunch one day, and when he and I were up and away from the table, his mother whispered to my mom, "Oh, they're both sick." And it's like, god damn. I mean, Linda, the child molester, how about that? Linda, the fucking stupid alcoholic, and Ma, the stay-at-home breeder, that finally decided to have a career, and oh, whoa, does she have a career, and you better stay out of her way unless you want labels stuck on you and potentially ending up in a mental hospital. We're sick. Yeah, well, I mean, that's really how bad it is there. And yeah, who wants to be near that? I mean, that is just like dangerous, isn't it? I mean, yeah, bootstraps mommy. That there's some of that. And I could think about my grandfather and continue to try to make sense of some of these things that she doesn't understand about him being a child laborer. And how resistant are people to accepting that? And how much effort is it going to take for me to see pieces of it that might need to be seen? Was there organized crime involved, or was it just the pressure of industrialists and industrialism and snooty people that really didn't change their attitudes after slavery supposedly ended? Because yeah, there was that. tea rooms for white ladies and shit like that. Ice cream rooms, tea rooms, a special little place at a restaurant, shit like that. That mentality has not, there's that, it's not over. Southern women, you want to fucking talk about a scourge on this fucking earth, Southern women. I mean, it ain't all women in the South. I'm not talking about my neighbor over there. You know, it's this pretense shit. Let's make it look like it looked before the Civil War. We'll have those columns, and yeah, I might not wear, everything everyone was wearing, but I'll get a little bit of silver, and yeah, I mean, really, there are other countries. I think about Cuba because I'm reading about Cuba, and I mean, I think what happened is Cuba, people wanted independence from Spain to continue slavery, basically. And I'm in the 1860s right now, in the book that I'm reading, and it's some of the same stuff that was going on in the 1840s that someone was executed for when he was basically a mercenary. So, and I mean, the history, what happens is, well, children are born and they don't ask to be born, and they're born into this sort of social and socioeconomic kind of thing, milieu, that is real toxic, and um and yeah, there are plenty of ways to talk about post Civil War South. I mean, including people being harmed who were not involved in slavery, and it being complex. All right, not slavery. There are things about it that I really want to understand better. I mean, as far as slave owners, I mean, I have a book about a woman from Africa who is described as a princess who was a slave and then a slave owner, and there's some relationship to the Lingles of Madeline Lingle, and yeah, so with some of these books, I open them and I'm like, I can only read a little bit right now, and I'm setting this aside, and then I'm going to read a little bit of this, and then and I'm going to read this whole book, and this one over here is just it tears my heart out, and but I think about things that are going on now, families doing things without thinking about the way that they're continuing the dynamics. It's serious. It's lethal. It is lethal. It's lethal. All right. So yeah. So yeah. This fucking pain in my head that started during the flood. I mean, I think about telling someone, I don't know if I'm going to survive these circumstances physically, and I think, and I want to cry, and I have been wanting to cry today. And is it feeling sorry for myself? Well, there might be a few things. Maybe that my aunt has died, and there are plenty of us who are sad about that. This endless shit that continues. Have a peaceful day. I hope you have a whatever fill in the blank day. And it's like, stop faking yourself through your fucking life. I mean, don't pretend. Don't pretend. Just, you grew up in East Point, okay? So stop faking it. Just stop faking it. I hope you have a pleasant day. I hope you have a peaceful day. Just be yourself. I don't know what myself is. All right, well, I don't know how to help you with that, really. Except to remind you that you grew up in East Point. All right, Oh, she was sick for a long time. I do have some books about healthcare. Specific to Georgia and segregation in Augusta, segregation among medical practitioners. There's history in that. People can't talk about it. People can't talk about it because the oppression is still there. People try to talk about these things, and some of the ways it has to come out is in scholarship, but it's just, it continues. It continues. And yeah, well, if I die, I was not sick for a long time. If I die, you know, uh, If I die, you can be sure I am gonna raise big time motherfucking burn it down hell.